I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited for you guys because you've stuck it out, and they've saved the best for last. And those of you who know me assume that I'm talking about myself when I say that, but in reality, I'm talking about these two gentlemen here who are going to talk about all of the theory and the ideas that we've shared today. These guys are making it real, and they're going to talk through some real-life scenarios, kind of open the kimono with you, really share kind of what they've experienced in their own businesses. And then we're going to open it up to questions. And I have a couple of canned questions, which are easy ones for them. So we really want to get you guys engaged, get the level of energy up here to close the day. So be thinking about some questions after they're done with their presentations, and really want to get you guys involved. And as a little incentive, anybody that asks a good question will get first dibs at the bar afterwards. So that's how we're going to play this. So without further ado, I'd actually like to start by introducing Mike Ward with Workfront, and he's going to tell you about his story here.
Is there a clicker?
The clicker?
There it is.
There it is. Brilliant.
Let's advance. Perfect. So, whoa, not yet. There we go. So I'm Mike Ward. I'm in marketing and demand gen for Workfront. Just really quickly, by show of hands, how many of you have heard of Workfront? Okay, how many of you have heard of @Task? A handful more. Okay, we got to work on our brand. Okay, so we help. I'll give you a little bit of explanation going into the presentation about what we do. We're a SaaS-based project management software. I've spent my career in digital marketing from Ancestry.com, a genealogy website, as well as Adobe and its marketing cloud. I joined Workfront in mid-February and run all of the digital marketing and sales development efforts at the company. This is me, and my kids thought this was really cool, and my 9-year-old daughter wondered where my nose was. And I'm not really sure, but that's how the designer made it. But I wanted to start with me because of I wanted to give you an idea of what Workfront did through the eyes that I had, an experience that I had in campaign marketing at Adobe. One of my responsibilities was to drive external marketing campaigns around product launches. So some of the campaigns were smaller, with maybe only a couple of website refreshes or a set of emails. Others were much more complicated, with new messaging, a creative approach, tactics from dozens of segmented emails, banner ads, social, and PR. And as a campaign marketer, to keep everything in check, I had my master spreadsheet and a series of check-in meetings and email. Lots and lots and lots of email. And I also had Word documents and Post-it notes and hallway conversations and instant messaging and more phone calls and more meetings and back to email. If you've been in campaign marketing, you kind of get where I'm coming from. Plus, add in the fact that I was in Utah. I was managing the campaign across the Bay Area, New York, London, Tokyo, and Sydney. And each of those groups had their own workflows and processes for getting things through creative and development. It was a real challenge for me to feel like I knew where things were and whether things were on track. I relied on each one of those digital marketers a lot to take care of each step, hoping that we were in our silos still getting the campaign launched. And this is me actually pulling out my hair, and if Brian can attest, I've lost it in the back a little bit. But does this sound familiar? Do you feel like that? Does your creative director feel like that? Does your project manager or web team feel like that? Are they lost in what we call work chaos? This is where Workfront comes in. We help marketing organizations, professional services, and IT teams kill the chaos of work. Our software helps teams prioritize, route, manage, and provide visibility. We work with some of the biggest marketing organizations in the world. I should say uses, anyway. And with that background and the diverse audiences that we work with, we have some unique challenges in digital marketing. Our marketing objectives at the highest level are to build brand and drive demand. As a smaller company, we have to fight for brand awareness, as you just saw with a handful of people who knew who we were. And after the rebrand, those who did know @Task, we're working really hard to make sure that Workfront is a name that people start to recognize. So how do we become part of the conversation with companies who are thinking about project management? We do things like sponsoring a viral video comedy group that talks about what it would be like if your email came to life, from missing attachments to group carbon copies to inviting the wrong guy to the poker game. Since April, this clip that has gotten somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 million views on YouTube, and has been great for kind of our brand recognition. We also do things like talk about workplace zombies. We talk about marketing is hell. We talk about the work personalities that you may despise. And we talk about time-wasting villains. And really, for us, it's how do we get our brand out in places that will remind people who we are and how we can help them solve their key pain points that they might be feeling as they, through that chaos of spreadsheets and email and meetings that I talked about. Next is driving demand. We have a sales organization who relies on us for their pipeline. To put it in context, right now, the marketing department, from digital channels through sales development efforts, is responsible for 90% of the sales pipeline. My job is to ensure that we are as efficient as we can be in the spend and provide the right leads for our sales development team to follow up on to get prospects into the funnel. So this is our demand gen engine. Now, I looked at the list of companies that are here, and we're a smaller company with limited resources. My marketing engine probably looks much different than your marketing engine. I've got a few people on my team, and we're running somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 digital activities each quarter across paid search, email, display, content syndication, and other channels. We've invested in our website and in nurture programs, and we have lead scoring in place. The goal to sort through the good and bad leads, because I want my sales development organization, the recipient of those leads, to be able to focus their attention on the people who are more ready to buy. Now remember, 90% of the pipeline comes from my team. So we spend a considerable amount of our time, a large percent of our budget at the top of the funnel, with the goal of engaging people with our content and getting them to the website and into leads. As has been mentioned, about 9 times out of 10, that first visit is likely a short one. And so we go back to fishing for more prospects. As we drive people to the site, many of them through paid channels, we're always looking to re-engage with them in as many different ways as possible. The company tried retargeting in the past, but they weren't able to meet the cost per lead targets. So they stopped retargeting for a couple of years and then re-engaged with Bizzo, now LinkedIn Lead Accelerator, last summer. So there's a few key things we were looking for as we started our relationship. One was focused audience segments. We're looking for influencers and decision makers in marketing and creative organizations, as well as IT and services. So the more we can focus our channels and our messaging on those areas and be able to talk to those specific segments separately, the better. We wanted to nurture our prospects at the top of the funnel. With all this 90+% of people who are coming to the site and not converting, we needed to have a way to talk to that audience again and provide more content and get more interaction with them. And acquiring customers, obviously, the more ready the prospects are in the marketing funnel as they go into the sales development process, the better it is for the efficiency. So as we set to work with LinkedIn Lead Accelerator, we decided to focus on a few key areas of our website. First, we started with homepage bouncers. For most of us, this is the biggest pool of people. Someone wanders in and looks briefly but doesn't engage further. Next, the solutions and features pages. The next click down for our site was where our prospects are starting to understand what we do. And because we sell to both marketing and IT, we needed a segmented approach to be able to provide relevant content to those specific audiences. Our resources pages is they're already watching webinars or reading white papers that we're putting out, so we're already engaging with them. And finally, our pricing pages. Obviously, if we can get somebody to a pricing page and then re-engage with them, we're going to have an easier time in a buying conversation. So let me give you one example of a prospect path that actually happened in just the last month. Since one of our key audiences is marketing and creative organizations, we sponsored and exhibited at a show in Chicago called How Design Live, which took place the first week of May. This is Kristen in green. She's the creative director for a software services company. Kristen attended How Design Live, visited our booth, and attended a speaking session that we gave. When we got home, we uploaded Kristen's information into our marketing automation platform, which kicked off an autoresponder thanking her for attending and providing her with another opportunity to engage with our content. Kristen clicked on the link, surfed around the Workfront, and then ended up on the pricing page, but then left the site. And it's possible that may have been where the story ended. But that's when our display nurture program with LinkedIn Lead Accelerator kicked in. Her site visit put her in the pricing page segment and served her a free trial offer. Kristen saw the offer, decided to fill out the form to get a free trial, and started a dialogue with sales. We're now far enough down the path in the buying cycle that we expect to close the deal in the next few weeks. So we tested this pricing segment quite a bit over the last few months with our display nurture. When we initially kicked off the campaign, after someone was put into the pricing page program, the first offer they would see was a buyer's guide for project management software. It seemed at the time like a decent next step in the flow, someone on the pricing page probably interested enough that we'd provide them with a guide to know what to look for. 14 days later, the campaign would serve them a free trial banner. A couple of weeks after that, we would give them another offer for an ebook. Since these prospects were already engaged with us on pricing, the free trial seemed like the more likely next step, and the data showed us that it took fewer impressions to get to an action. So the second iteration, we moved the free trial offer to the first spot. And maybe not surprisingly, that was the ticket. Immediately, our click-through rate increased by 45%, and our impressions per action decreased by 20% for the first asset. Said in a different way, with one little switch, we brought in 45% more people to our website, and 20% more people filling out a form and providing us with contact information. So what's next for us? In full disclosure, we aren't using all of the LinkedIn audience segmentation and targeting that we could be. Our goal is to spend more time and get more sophisticated in our audience segmentation. We need to better understand the life cycle of a lead, and we're digging in on down funnel attribution heavily. I gave one example of Kristen, but we have a ways to go to improve the tracking attribution logic that we're using. Next, while we have a lead scoring model currently through Marketo, we still feel like the leads we get through LinkedIn and other channels could be better scored. So we're looking into some predictive lead scoring and options, and believe we can find some significant efficiencies to bring the right people into the funnel. And finally, multi-channel nurture. We want to explore even tighter integration between our email nurture and our display nurture, as well as targeting on the website itself, based on the same information we were learning from our site visitors. So we don't have prospects that are quite jumping into the nets yet, but we've learned a lot about our so far in our testing, and have seen good success at the top of the funnel with our current demand gen engine and adding LinkedIn Lead Accelerator into the mix. We look forward to the continual testing and optimization across the demand funnel to help us get there. Thanks.
And now Monu Kalsi, he's the VP and head of digital marketing at Zurich.
No.
I can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go.
Okay, great. I should have really gone first. That's a very tough act to follow, right, Mike? You told me, oh, my presentation's so simple. And you need to hook me up with the agency which pulled those slides together. They're excellent.
We have a creative guy.
Can you give me his contact?
My daughter wants a family portrait. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yep. So a little bit about myself. So I work for Zurich North America, and I'll tell you a little bit about the company in a second. I've been with Zurich for the last 2 years. I head up the digital marketing practice. So my team is responsible for all our digital channels, which include web, email, social, mobile, and display. We do have the responsibility for US and Canada. So a little bit about Zurich. For the folks who don't know Zurich, Zurich is a global insurance company. We do provide general insurance and life insurance products in 170 countries. We have about 55,000 people worldwide. In the US, it's about 9,000. I've lost the count. I think it's a little bit shy of 10,000 now. We do provide commercial insurance in the US, so we are a B2B business, but outside of the US in many countries, we do provide personal lines business as well, coverages as well. We do tend to rank amongst the top insurance providers in this space in the US. So before we get into the actual solution, let's talk a little bit about the challenges we're facing. And again, as you'll see, some of my slides are not as fancy as Mike's, but hopefully you guys can sit through that. So, and I hope that if I'm assuming there are a lot of B2B marketers in the room, and you guys can relate to some of the challenges we're going to talk about here, right? So, not very different to you guys in the room. We do have very long sales cycles. Sales cycles for us could be between a couple days to a few months for some big Fortune 500 companies. Our ownership cycles are between 1 to 3 years. So as you can imagine, catering to audiences, customers who have ownership cycles that long or sales cycles that long is very challenging. It requires a lot of discipline, a lot of rigor on our part. And again, a problem which is across the B2B space, we do not have a single decision maker. So, our counterparts in B2C have it, I would say, relatively easy because they at least know who the decision maker is. They have a lot more data on it. Same problem we have is we have multiple decision makers. Zurich has many different lines of businesses which cater to many different customer segments. So that, again, complicates the situation for us. The other issue which we have is there's a lot of sea of sameness. So there's a lot of competitors out there that we have who actually are churning out similar content, have similar social presence out there, and we had to find a way to differentiate ourselves. We wanted to move away from the pack, do something different which does not look like a cookie cutter approach. And while we do this, it was also important for us as a carrier to maintain authenticity, authority of our content. We want to make sure that our customers, prospects, our distributors look at us as the source for the truth. They look at us for the leading trends. They look at us for the thought leadership. They look at us for the next big thing in the insurance space. So we have to make sure that what we put out there is not only relevant, is not only timely, but it's also authentic. And finally, Zurich's mission is really to protect and educate and protect our customers from risks. So in situations where there are natural catastrophes, et cetera, we have to make sure that we are quick, nimble, prompt to put some information in front of our customers and help them protect them from that risk. There have been many natural catastrophes in the last few years. So we had to be on top of it, making sure our content reaches our customers in a timely fashion, pre an event, and even during and post an event. How can we help them maybe get their business back online? Okay. So how many people in this room at least can, how many of these sound similar to you? 3? 4? Okay, good. All right. So what we did was, along with our retained social media agency, we sat down on the table with LinkedIn. We said, well, we have to come up with some sort of campaign which is going to address most of these issues. So the objectives of this campaign, which we came up with, was really threefold. One was to minimize variation in the way we reach our customers. So let's make sure that the frequency, tone, the branding of the posts that we make on social media are consistent. We want to make sure that we target the right audience. We want to make sure that our message is reaching the right people. It is aligning with our prioritized customer segments. And thirdly, we wanted to start to measure better than just our basic channel metrics. We want to go the next step. How can we learn from the engagement metrics? What content is working with our customers and our distributors? How can we continue to change that or work on that, refine that to do better? So the solution that we came up with was multifold again. So one, we moved to an always-on strategy. So from a content marketing perspective, we stopped doing a lot ad hoc and event-based content push and moved to something called always-on, where we want to basically maintain a consistent flow of content to our followers in LinkedIn and our targeted segments so that they get in the habit of listening from Zurich. They basically get a little bit hooked onto us, so that it increases the stickiness on our channel. What we also did was, in addition to just organic posting on LinkedIn and some other social channels, primarily on LinkedIn, we use the sponsored updates offering from LinkedIn. So what this helps us do is helps us push our content to our target audience. And we did this with the help of a few LinkedIn partners. So we partnered with Unified and Percolate. So Percolate is a LinkedIn partner who helps us do better planning from a content marketing standpoint, and Unified helps us to do better targeted media buying and targeting. So again, if you guys want to read up more about them, you definitely can on the web. But that's the kind of team we pulled together to make this happen. And at the same time, what we did was we put together a multi-social strategy. So most of our customers do jump between channels. So on an average, our customers, in addition to face-to-face, do interact with us on our website, on multiple social channels. So we want to make sure that the consistency of our voice, our message is seen across all these channels. So we made sure that all the content that we're putting on LinkedIn, there's also similar content, similar messages going on Twitter and some other channels that we have out there, and make sure that and at the end of the day, the customer has a pleasing, happy, consistent experience. And one point I want to make is that this space is a very hard space to be in for digital marketers. You know, it's a very tough audience to please. This is a regulated space. So there's, from an engagement standpoint, people are not very willing to engage with their content. So it's a very hard audience to please. So let's talk about what it turned out to be. So we've seen a decent amount of success in the last 12 months or so. So this strategy of always on and targeted content has paid out for us. As you can see, I'm sharing with you just a few high-performing content out there. The first one, the construction is changing. This one saw more than 1 million impressions, more than 17,000 engagements. And engagements include clicks, comments, likes, etc. Construction is changing. This particular post was also ranking in the top 10 posts for financial services industry as a whole for the longest time. And then there are a couple other snippets out here. And again, some of you folks in the room might think, well, those numbers don't look big enough to me, you know, especially when you compare to B2C or maybe into B2B in some bigger companies. For us in commercial insurance space, some of these numbers are moonshots. I mean, they're very, very hard to get, especially from an engagement standpoint. You could get all the impressions in the world if you throw money at it, but how do you get that engagement? The engagement is very hard to come by. So again, for some of the data-oriented folks in the room who are also very hard to impress, some numbers. We tracked our success of a campaign in two areas. So one was engagement metrics and one was community growth. So from an engagement standpoint, as you can see, these numbers which we're showing here are numbers as they compare to LinkedIn benchmarks for the financial services sector. So we saw from the time we started our campaign, we saw 64% increase in our engagement rates, and we saw similar increases in our click-through rates too for our CTAs. And also, if you compare the numbers we're seeing over the last 6 months, they are almost 70+% higher than what we saw for the first 6 months of last year. And from a growth perspective, to align with the same timeline, we have been seeing some tremendous growth in our followers. So there's about 40% plus growth in our followers, and we continue to see a double-digit growth this year. What we're also gaining from this execution is we are starting to understand what ticks with our customers and distributors, right? Like which content did well, why did not it do well, what else can we do? Because we are in a always be testing mode. You know, we have to continue to evolve. We cannot just continue to throw stuff at customers. It doesn't work anymore. We do not do any promotional pushes from the sponsored updates, all thought leadership material. And what we're also seeing is that progressively, the mix of the followers who are following us is changing. You know, it's no more the demographic we don't want to reach or the customers who we don't want to talk to. Again, I cannot stop anybody from following the Zurich channel on LinkedIn. Anybody's free to follow that. But the kind of push and pull campaigns that you're putting out there has to attract the right audience. So finally, some takeaways for you guys. So what we've learned over the last 6 to 12 months is when you're putting together a content strategy out there, make sure that you get the right buy-ins from your leadership. Make sure that your social content strategy is well aligned and stems from your overall marketing strategy. That is, I know a lot of people might think, well, that's given, but you would be surprised how many times people tend to have a siloed approach by channel, and we were there too, and we're kind of getting there. I would not say we are almost there, but we all tend to be in our own channels and I'm email, so I'm doing my email, and I'm web, I'm doing my web. But we have to make sure that all these stem from your overall marketing strategy. One thing which worked for us was to what made us successful in this execution was to make sure that all the parties who need to be involved were engaged from the get-go. So we made sure we got a proper team together along with LinkedIn, Unified Percolate, our social media agency. We got everybody on the table. We worked out the entire process. We made sure that the content that we are going to push is going to be available. So for example, in Zurich, in North America, we do produce a majority of our content in the marketing team, but a fair share of our content also comes from the business unit. It does come from various different sources. So we want to make sure that if we want to have this steady stream of content going out there, we have to have the sources aligned. We have to have them bought out because creating good, relevant content is hard. It's very hard work. Distribution is relatively easy, I would say, but putting good thought leadership content is very, very hard. So make sure you have that in place. Again, I'll repeat this. We've heard this before in this afternoon as well. Make sure your content is authentic, it's engaging. You want that engagement from people. It should be thought-provoking. Do not talk at your customers. So please, let's balance the sales copy versus really engaging content. And finally, don't try to be everything to everyone, right? We cannot do that. We cannot serve every customer out there at the same level. So do prioritize, sit with your business units, understand what they want, where's the business priorities, which customer segments align with that, and go for it. So what's not on here, but which comes to my mind is if you're in a regulated space, make legal and compliance your best friend. A lot of people get very scared about, well, what if we add legal to our workflow or compliance? That's just going to add days and weeks and months. That's not the case. We've had really good success. Of course, it was a little bit bumpy at the beginning, but once legal understands, these teams understand what marketing's vision is, where we're going, and we understand what are the kind of things they normally look for, I think it becomes a well-oiled machine eventually. And then finally, another takeaway, sorry, I keep adding to it, is invest in your people, right? You heard this before. Invest in good content marketing resources. Invest, which we've done over the last year. We've invested in a content collaboration platform, which is going to help streamline some of your content workflow, editorial calendar, and some automation of content. So that's it.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you. So please start thinking of those questions. Raise your hand as soon as you're ready. And just to kick things off, I actually thought I'd start with a little bit of a LinkedIn tradition. So when we have new employees join the company, one of the things that we ask them all to do is talk about something that's not, or share something that's not on their LinkedIn profile. And since for the next 20 minutes or so, you're sort of honorary LinkedIn employees, thought we'd start there. So Monu, you can go first on this one.
Okay. Is my mic still working? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What's not on my LinkedIn profile? I'm a pretty black and white guy, so there's not a lot to hide. So one thing would be that I have ran 3 international marathons in my life and done a couple domestic marathons. Yes, you cannot probably tell that right now. This was back in the days, but I don't.
Brilliant, brilliant. It makes me feel so unworthy. Mike?
I have not run any international marathons or domestic marathons or half marathons. No, the thing for me that is not on my LinkedIn profile, I'm from Utah and I have 5 children. Collective gasp in the audience. So ranging in age from 13 to 3.
Wow.
So we're busy.
Delta.
That's
a big delta. So question for each of you, and by the way, I left my iPad back at the hotel. It's synced with my iPhone. I'm not actually checking my email here, just looking at my notes. So Monu, you were really focused on driving engagement and driving people to follow your company and that sort of thing. When you think about that, how do you look at the value of an incremental follower, and what's a follower worth to you? How do you think about that?
That's a good question. So followers are worth a lot to us, and let me qualify that. Quality followers, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I obviously can't stop anybody from following us on LinkedIn, but a lot of the efforts that we have going on, and we term them as campaigns, push and pull campaigns are all towards getting the right followers, and that's where we've leveraged sponsored updates and other targeting mechanisms. But the followers are important because we want to make sure that the right followers follow us and consume our content, which comes in form of thought leadership pushes to LinkedIn, our blog posts which are cross-promoted on LinkedIn as well. And we want to be there, right? We want to be there at the moment of truth. So we want to basically move these people down in the funnel, raise Zurich's brand awareness. You know, if they don't already know Zurich, we want to make sure that they understand what Zurich stands for, what's the value proposition, and when they're ready to make that decision, when they're at that brokerage or talking to the brokerage firm about the insurance needs, that they go in there and basically they can ask for Zurich. Obviously that's the ideal situation. And getting the right followers is important because that also reduces our random efforts of throwing more money into targeting and retargeting audiences out there. Because if you have the right followers, that sets you up so that you can start to push the right content to the right people. Otherwise, you're always looking out there and throwing money in social media trying to target these audiences.
Okay, great, thank you. Mike, similar question for you.
Yep.
You were more focused on kind of nurturing and converting your anonymous site visitors and turning them into qualified leads. So how do you define a qualified lead, and how do you measure the value of that qualified lead in your context?
Okay, so I can address that in two different parts. I'll take the digital marketing side first, and then the sales development side second. From a digital marketing perspective, it's very similar to what probably most of you are all doing with marketing automation platforms. As our leads come in as inquiries, we've got both implicit and explicit scoring that we're applying based off of how often they come to the site. The main pages, the pricing page that they come to obviously is going to have a much higher score than somebody who just came to the home page or clicked on an email. The content that they engage with through our webinars and our white papers will be somewhere in the middle. And although we'll kind of, they're additive, obviously. So as they engage with more, then that pushes the score up on the explicit side. We're looking for, a lot of time, we're looking for marketers and IT, so directors and above, who get higher scores, and bigger companies that can afford our product, higher scores. And so that's, I think I mentioned that I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to improve both the foundational lead scoring model as well as looking at the options for predictive lead scoring. So we're evaluating a lot of different things on the digital side of the house. On the sales development part of the handoff, I actually really like the fact that this is a company, the first company that I've been at where the SDR team or the sales development team sits inside marketing. And so we're able one part of the team is able to build the leads and the lead flow. The other then takes the scored leads and starts the email conversation, starts phone calls. And their goal is what we refer to as PAT. There are a lot of other BANT and ANIM and other things that people use, but we use a pain authority and timeline as a way to say if an SDR can get you to that point in the conversation where we know that you do have a pain, where you have the authority and you've got a rough timeline in place, we then do a warm handoff over to our sales team to pick it up from there to I just hit my steps for the day. Sorry. I ran. But not a marathon. But sorry. But we focus really heavily on making sure that they are the right quality of leads when they get to the sales team, because the sales team doesn't do their own prospecting per se, and so we rely really heavily to make sure that our sales development efforts have that lead quality as high as we possibly can.
Okay, great. One more question, and then open it up to the audience here. So, for both of you, content creation was a key part of your strategy, a key part of the execution. How did you approach that? Was it done internally? Did you use external resources? And how do you continue to sort of manage that content development effort within your org?
You want me to start?
Sure.
I'm learned a lot from Manu's presentation on some of the external agencies that he's using to help engage with content development. We have a solutions marketing team, in essence, a product marketing and content marketing combined, who help us understand who our audiences are, what are the content that's going to best meet their needs. And we partner together with them on the digital side to figure out how do we engage them on the awareness side. For the awareness side, I showed a few of the mock-ups of the villains and the despised personalities and things like that, really at the top of the funnel, and then move down into the pain points of the white papers and the analyst reports that will engage them through the buying cycle. We do use some third parties, but a lot of it we do in-house.
Okay. Right, similar story here. So, can you guys hear me? Okay. The content ideation creation is primarily done in-house, right? Marketing obviously leads that. And for us, it's core to our business, right? Because we are B2B, and in B2B, what we want to do is show authority and leadership in this space through content. And so basically, marketing creates the content, but we also have very close partnership with a lot of our business units. We do have a risk management organization, which is on the forefront of identifying and talking about the different risks in the industry. And what we've done in Zurich is we've established some really clear guidance on what are we going to talk about. We probably cannot talk about the bazillion risk topics out there, but there are some thought leadership pillars or risk pillars that we want to talk about, and those do shift, year over year, quarter over quarter. So we've put some guide rails around this to guide the organization as to what we should talk about. But the creation is done in-house, and obviously that is we have a leveraged model, so we do use external firms to help us with some of the more richer content development. So this could be in the form of videos, infographics, all the engaging social and web content. We do have partners to do that as well.
Awesome. Okay, who wants to be first in line at the bar? There's a gentleman right there. There's a microphone coming. Yep.
As you were describing the types of content you're creating and doing on LinkedIn, you were measuring success as number of connections or number of people engaging with the content and saying it matters that they're the right people. How do you evaluate, are these the right people? Am I getting the right types of people to engage with my LinkedIn content?
Right, so this is where we partner heavily with LinkedIn, and then we have our social media agency and social tools where we basically, after every campaign, we do go in and we assess what kind of, obviously, engagement it got, what kind of people it was able to drive. There's a lot of due diligence that happens, I would say, on a consistent basis. We have initiated monthly, campaign effectiveness meetings where we actually do pick 3 to 5 top campaigns. We obviously cannot measure everything and anything which is happening out there. We have tons of activity, but we do pick a few campaigns, and then it's this set of folks internally and externally where we pull all this data together. But it is it all done, well and done? I mean, yeah, I mean, we're getting there. I mean, we know what we know based on the information we can get from LinkedIn. Some of the other social platforms are not that advanced, if you will, in giving us that level of insights into the audience interacting with us. So we have a fair amount of success with LinkedIn, but other ones we're still getting there.
Thought I saw a hand over. Yes. Over here. Oh.
Hi. My name's Robert, and really appreciate the presentation, guys. It's great. I am a video content consultant, and so when I was intrigued by the viral video that you mentioned, I'm really curious to know how video is playing into your strategy at this point, or if it's top of mind for the way you're approaching things, because we know that it's a lot more memorable. It tends to be much more engaging. I'm just curious how it figures in for you guys.
I can start.
Yeah.
The viral video that we talked about was a sponsorship for a comedy group that already had that planned. I think we were able to get a lot of traction out of that. I think we have a lot of plans, but not all the way defined on how we need to. We know that if you go to our website now, we've got a video smattered in. We've actually just ramped up a little bit of our video team. Our entire company is 500 people, so we don't have a huge staff in-house. But we are looking for ways. I truly believe there are lots of ways for us to engage with our prospects and with our customers in video that's going to be much more emotionally driven. And honestly, from a marketer's perspective, I want to give them a white paper and I want to give them a webinar for information, but I'm going to change their minds with the emotion that they can get from a video. So we've got a lot of opportunities to improve in that area.
Yeah, so on our end, video is definitely top of mind for me, but we all know that creating engaging videos is hard. It takes a lot of effort, right? It's much easier for us to also whip out a white paper or an email and send it out and then say, okay, let's hope they open it and engage with us. So there's definitely a time and resource factor to that. We have made some significant investments from our end. Again, significant is a relative term. On YouTube, so we have been very, over the last 12 months or so, we've taken, sort of like an active role in bringing our YouTube channel, up to the mark, making sure that it's clean, it has all the best practices in there. We have posted a lot of our videos out there. We made sure the videos had, call to actions, etc. So we've kind of checking the box of best practices on that. But do we have all the video content that I would like to have out there, to basically engage with the customers in every stage, such as in the research stage or in the retention stage? Not as yet. I mean, it's hard, and as you can imagine, the topic we're talking about is insurance. So it's not a very, engaging, exciting topic. I mean, I'm sure there's some risk enthusiasts out there, but it's a hard topic to talk about, You can talk about shoes all day long, but, talking about risk and is hard. So where we are going is, and if you go to our YouTube channel, you see this, we are engaging a lot of our business subject matter experts to sort of share their point of views through a video format rather than in a white paper. So that is happening. But again, as you can imagine, all these business leaders have a day job. It's very hard to get them to actually, collaborate with you on a lengthy production. So yeah, so we have our own challenges, but aspirationally, yes, that is the direction.
I've got one piece that I should mention also. I think we've spent a lot of our time actually making short vignettes in our blog, and so whatever the topic was over the last few months, our CMO is kind of hosting the what do you learn from project management? How do you what are the topics that are the most interesting for our audience, and so we've been spending some time trying to tell that story from a video perspective as well.
Terrific. Got time, I think, for one more question. I saw the hand there first.
Question regarding insurance. I mean, it's a very complicated product to sell in general, my experience with it. The question I have is, will digital insurance sales drive the development of innovative new products, considering that marketing drives sales, sales drives products, products drives marketing, marketing drives sales? So if so, and how?
Well, we're not there yet. Frankly, I mean, we are not there yet. I mean, so for us, 2013 and 14 was all about impressions, followers, get our awareness up, and this year is all about engagement. I'm optimistic, and next year is where we'll start to basically take those, quality followers and start to move them down the funnel, identify those leads, and flip it over to somebody who needs to catch it. So the problem is that organizationally, we don't have that hashed out end to end. It's hard. I mean, getting the leads and getting that credibility for those leads, right? And basically, sales teams are already overwhelmed, right, everywhere with the kind of pipeline that they have right now. So if marketing is going to dump more to that pipeline, I don't know if they're going to appreciate that. So while we are going to be looking at some smaller pilots to test it out, and we're also talking to LinkedIn about this, but doing it on a mass scale is something which we aspire to do in the future. Yeah.
So that was a pretty quick one. I think I saw one other hand here. We got time for one more right here in the middle. Sorry, microphone guy.
Job is over.
Thanks. Hope this isn't too long of a question, but I'm interested in the different experiences you've had building an inbound funnel for SMB versus enterprise prospects, because while everyone kind of enters at the same level using similar strategies, once they're in that funnel, I feel that you need maybe higher touch for enterprise. You might need to go back to more old school strategies, or I'm interested in the tools and the data that you use to make those decisions.
That is a fantastic final question.
Yes, let me think about that. Do you want to address that first?
I can start off the cuff. So I think for us, we spend a lot of our budget in digital for the senior managers and the directors in specific parts of enterprises. And a lot of times that helps us get to the SMB actual deal. The higher touch, the larger enterprises have many more layers, and we've got another, we've got our digital, which layers on with our field strategies and specific high touch events similar to this, user conferences where we specifically try to have conversations that are they're gonna take longer. Our deal sizes or the life cycle of a deal is obviously much longer in a enterprise than in an SMB, and so we spend a lot more of our efforts in various channels to get to those enterprises. And the SMBs, I'll be honest, we don't spend as much time on the outside of the digital channels that we know we can optimize pretty efficiently.
Yeah, so let me build on that. So similar experience here. So while a lot of the stuff we're talking about in social media, and again, I'm keeping this conversation limited to that, is on general risk topics which in some way or form do impact medium businesses, large business, etc. Where we do tend to engage more with small and medium businesses, and we don't do a lot of small, like there's a threshold there. We do tend to engage with them in different channels. So we do have a very robust email marketing campaign that we run with most of our customers and distributors. Our website right now is going through an entire transformation where we are going to be much more customer centric, and there's going to be sections in there which do talk to the pain points and the coverages for small businesses, medium businesses, etc. So we're not there yet. A lot of stuff in the funnel. I'm going to see light of the day towards the end of this year or next year, but primarily from a social standpoint, we haven't really cracked that nut of how do we actually talk differently to a small business versus a medium business. So it's a journey.
Monu, Mike, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Big round of applause. These guys did a great job. Finished strong.